Right, we're going to be having a trigonometric class, right? So I want you to learn how to simplify trig ratios. So this is what we do. So just know that on the first quadrant, all sine, tan, and cos are positive. And to simply remember this, just say all stupid teachers complain. Keep it that way. So the first quadrant, tan, cos, and sine are positive. But on the second quadrant, only sine is positive, which means cos in this quadrant will be negative, and then tan in this quadrant is going to be negative. Let's go again with the third quadrant. On the on the third quadrant, tan is positive. That means cos is positive is negative in this quadrant, and sine is negative in this quadrant. So if we go to the third quadrant, we see that only cos is positive, which means sine is negative in this quadrant, and tan is negative in this quadrant. All right, so how do we use this information to actually simplify the questions that were given to us? So first of all, let us try and avoid using these angles first. We'll come to them later on part 2 so that we can be able to work on them. So let's use our reference angles 180 and 360, right? Say for an example, you are given the sine of 180 plus theta. So you need to know that theta can be any number that you can use. It can be 40, can be 30, can be any number that is on the angle there. So we will come to 180 there. This is where my 180 line is. They said sum of 180 plus theta. So if I add any number, let's say I add a 10, right? So it's going to be 190. 190 is going to be in this quadrant. Let me just give an example there, right? So which means 180 plus theta will fall under the third quadrant. Now I'm going to check, is this sign positive in the third quadrant? And I will notice that no, sign is actually negative in the third quadrant. So which means if I'm going to simplify that, the answer is going to be minus the sine of theta. That's a simple way to write it. So write it in white pen, minus the sine of theta, right? So let me just say you are given the sine of 180 minus theta. So what I'm going to do there is 180 minus theta will fall under the second quadrant. And in the second quadrant, I can see that sine is positive in this quadrant. So this one is going to be plus the sine of theta. So keep that in mind when you're doing that, right? So let's say you're given tan of 180 minus theta. So this is what you're going to check. You're going to check if 180 minus theta is, which quadrant does it fall under? So 180 minus is going to be in the second quadrant there, right? So is tan, the one that we have here, positive in this quadrant? No. So which means this one is going to be negative. The simply expression is going to be negative what? The tan of theta. So let's keep going. So if I'm given the tan of 180 plus theta, and then we want to check 180 plus theta falls under this quadrant. So what I'm going to look at there is 180 plus theta, is it positive in this quadrant? Yes, it is. Then you're going to write positive. What? The tan of theta. Let's expand the angle now. So let's say you're given the sine of 360 minus theta. So 360 is right here in this line, right? 360 minus can be 350 something. We know that any number that is below 360 is going to fall under this quadrant, which is the third quadrant. So I'm going to check, is this sign here positive in this quadrant? No, because only cos is positive here, which means here, when we simplify this, it's going to be negative the sine of theta. So keep that in mind, right? So now, still with cos now. Let's say this is the cos of 360 minus theta. So what will be the answer there? So if you look at this, cos 360 falls under 360 minus theta falls under this. Is cos, this cos, positive in this quadrant? Yes, it is. Then it's going to be what? Positive, the cos of what? Of theta. So keep on simplifying it. Let's say you're given now the cos of 180 plus theta. Simplify it. So 180 is in this line. 180 plus is going to fall on the third quadrant. So is this cos positive in this quadrant? No, it's not. So this one is going to be what? Negative the cos of theta, right? So now you can be able to simplify anything that is given to you in that manner. But now here is a trick. There's a trick that they always give to you in a test. So I just want us to address that. Let's say they gave you something like this: theta minus 180 degrees. Now, one thing you need to know is your reference angle should never be negative. The reference angle I'm talking about, these angles 0, 90, 180, and 270. This is what I call my reference angles. That my reference angles should never, never by any chance be negative. So for me to correct this, right, I have to multiply by negative to just make sure that I get my answer in my get my reference angle become to be positive. So whatsoever is in here will be multiplied by negative. So which means minus 180 plus that, which is going to be positive 180 multiplied by negative. Theta times negative is going to give me what? Negative theta. So in other words, now I already have my reference angle as positive. So let's keep this negative that we have here outside. Let's put it here. And now I have what? The cos of 180 minus theta. Let's simplify that. Now, I now know that cos 180 minus theta falls under this quadrant, the second quadrant. So is cos 108, is cos positive in this quadrant? No, cos is negative. So this one is going to be negative, the one that is outside. So it's going to be negative what? The cos of what? Of theta, which I simplify is going to be the positive cos of theta. So this is how you actually simplify it if you are given in that way. So let's meet on part 2, where we are dealing with reference angles where the angle is 90 or 270.